Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Stephan Livera podcast, brought to you by Bold. For American listeners, you can buy Bitcoin over at getbold.io. Now, rejoining me on the show today is Matyas Kuchar. Matyas is one of the two brothers who are organizing BTC Prague, or let's say the lead organizers. And so excited to get you back on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you, Stefan. Thrilled to be here, and greetings from Czech Republic to all your listeners.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, look, I think the event has been great so far. I think I've had a great time at both of the ones that I've been to. I guess let's talk a little bit about what's happening in 2025. There's lots of things going on in the Czech Republic Bitcoin wise, so we'll obviously have to get into all of those things as well as what's the latest with BTC Prague. I guess let's start with BTC Prague. Give us a little bit of an overview. What's the latest there?
Yeah, well, BTC Prague has been always reflecting the changes of the sentiment of Bitcoin. We've been organizing Bitcoin events since 2020, and it used to be very hardcore. It used to be very underground from the beginning because that was the market. But now we can see that the sentiment really changed, and we are again reflecting the changes. So BTC Prague is always building on the same foundation, and it's for people who kind of feel that the system is rigged, that something is not right, and they are looking for tools how to leverage in the time we are living now. So it's for people who just don't go with the flow. It's BTC Prague has been always on the forefront of self-sovereignty, freedom, and money. We are building this place, this event for people like us, like me and Martin, who like to meet in the real world to get the good connections and to speed up the process of their understanding of Bitcoin, because you can spend hundreds of hours on the internet, but you don't get that much conviction and information like when you go to the conference and talk to the real people and build the real trust and real relationships.
Yeah, and I've long been a fan of community meetups and conferences, right? Just any kind of Bitcoin events generally. So I've spent time as an organizer in a meetup, kind of more at the meetup level, not at the conference level. So I guess let me ask you the question this way. When we were new to Bitcoin, many of us got over exuberant. We thought, oh, it's all going to happen so soon, right? Like it's a common experience we go through, right? We're shouting from the rooftops and we think it's so obvious. Why won't people come and join us? But it's almost like it just takes more time than we think. But then at the same time, as you said, there's this whole new wave of people coming in. So what does that look like with this whole new wave of people coming?
Yeah, good question. I think that the new wave of people won't be very similar to the last wave of newcomers in the last bull market. And it's because we are crossing the chasm. We are moving into a new stage of Bitcoin adoption on the bell curve. And I think it's late adopters or perhaps early majority. And those people are coming for different reasons. And they're coming to Bitcoin because it's finally legitimized in their own eyes. So Bitcoin has been underground, but now you can hear some news in mainstream media every other week. It's either politicians talking about it or nation state buying Bitcoin or considering some strategic reserve. It's some new law or some institution jumping in, BlackRock's, Bitwise, and there are more than 100 publicly traded companies who are somehow doing the Bitcoin treasury playbook. So those informations and those arguments are really playing into this mainstream hype, and people who might not really feel confident to jumping in 5 years ago because it was full of techies and geeky enthusiasts and crypto anarchists and cypherpunks. Now they feel confident and they feel like it's not taboo anymore. They can come in and they feel the opportunity because they might be the go-to guy in their own company. They maybe recognize Bitcoin as a similar opportunity like internet in early 90s. So they are feeling again the opportunity, and it's playing on their ambitions to be the Bitcoin guy in their company, and maybe they were Bitcoiners, but they finally now feel that it's okay to go to their boss and start talking about Bitcoin because it's finally okay. I feel the big change is that Bitcoin is really here, and no one would argue that it's not here to stay, that it would go away.
Yeah.
We
So
dealt
let me
with
ask you the
most of
question this way as
arguments.
well. Like, I think you're touching on something interesting there around the kind of person is changing. And so
Yep.
let's compare back to past years, right? So BTC Prague. Now, I know you started another, like a Czech-based conference earlier, but BTC Prague was in 2023. It started last year, 2024, and this year, 25. If you had to talk about, like, what is the percentage of, let's say, sort of cypherpunk, libertarian people versus like people who are coming and they're kind of a bit new, how would you say that has changed over, 23, 24, and coming up to this year, 25?
It's hard to say because we don't collect any information. If you buy
Yeah.
a ticket to BTC
Oh, I just mean like
Prague,
subjective feel, like when you talk to people,
my subjective feel is that we had many freedom-loving folks, libertarians, because it's a part of a Czech culture, and we have many people who are like towards this thinking. So I would say majority of them are cypherpunks and freedom-loving people who understand Bitcoin because of this part of the movement. And it's slowly changing. And I think this year we will experience a rapid change. And some might not like it. The culture has been set as a really geeky, and perhaps this is a natural way of evolving Bitcoin. And I think the opportunity here, and maybe I would use this moment to encourage people who have been in Bitcoin for some time to help others who are new to Bitcoin to transition into Bitcoin in a smooth way, and let them understand the other prospects of Bitcoin, not only the money. Because, we like to say, you come for money and stay for technology, or stay for freedom, or stay for community. I've been traveling to many conferences, not only Bitcoin conferences. I have to tell you, and it's not only those words are not only from my mouth, because everyone says that the Bitcoin conferences are absolutely amazing because of the vibe and the community. The people are just friendly, happy, and sharing interesting stuff with each other. And it's because we have similar values. We might come from different countries, but from 10 points, we share 8. And those 2 points which we don't share, we like to talk about. And I think that this is the interesting part for any newcomer. So because I think Bitcoin tend to attract people who are naturally curious, they are open-minded. So we are welcoming new wave of people. Those are regular people from mid-class, maybe middle management, maybe even suit-wearing newbies who will soon recognize Bitcoin's potential and help us with the next wave of adoption. So that was my rant. I don't know if I answered your
Sure.
question
I think
correctly.
it's fair to say that it is going to change. I think there are all kinds of subtopics inside of that. So as an example, people might argue about, custodial versus non-custodial, or KYC centralized exchanges and products versus decentralized and peer-to-peer things. And there's always this sort of tension in the community in some ways, because there are some people who are like, hey, we want the maximum adoption, just be permissive as possible. And then on the other side, you have the people who are more like, no, got to stay hardcore, got to keep it stay to the roots. So I think these are some of the questions that are going to come naturally. And I think a big one nowadays is, ever since the US Bitcoin ETFs were launched in January of 2024, that's been a big shift, right? And then now the rise of the Bitcoin treasury companies, right? Michael Saylor will be there as well, and Eric Semler. So that's another thing that's really changing. And so arguably there are a lot of people coming in a custodial fashion or using some kind of IOU layer. And so the more hardcore Bitcoiners might look at them and say, hey, you're doing it the wrong way, or some people are getting the wrong idea. I'm curious, how do you see that tension?
Good question. I personally think that it's about education. If you come to Bitcoin as a newcomer, you don't see the difference between self-custody and ATF. So it takes time, and we've all been there. So I feel compassion with newcomers, and simply we need to teach them about the real values, and the core mission of BTC Prague is still same. We teach people about self-sovereignty, about how to leverage Bitcoin for your individual freedom, and for this you need to use Bitcoin as it was intended. It's a peer-to-peer cash, electronic cash, and self-custody is a big part of that. If you own ATF, you are not sovereign with your money. Your money is very easily censorable. So some people will get it soon, some people will get it later when they won't be able to move their money, or who knows when will this new wave of adoption get us. But the history tend to not repeat, but it often rhymes. So we had a problem with centralized custodians like FTX. So I don't want to give a big predictions here, but I guess that we will see some big problem during maybe next bear market, and it might be one of the ATFs, and it will again for a next phase change how the people think about self-custody.
Yeah, often it is when things go wrong that people actually sit up and listen, because until then there might have been people saying, hey, get your cold card, or get your whatever, get your Trezor, get your Ledger, whatever, and get your node, run your node, and connect your wallet with your own node, and all these things. But these messages might fall on deaf ears at the start, or in fairness, there may be some more, let's say, savvy Bitcoiners who maybe they keep most of their coins in their hardware wallet or their multi-sig setup, but maybe they do want to put some into some kind of centralized platform, whether that's the ETFs or the Bitcoin treasury companies, because maybe they want to borrow against their coins, or maybe they want to do like some of these options and trading strategies and things like that. Now, I'm more of a hodler myself, but just recognizing that there are people doing that. So what do you make of those?
There are many options and many products which are like getting traction, the lending, and people really can use it and learn. I would encourage everyone to really try most of the products. So because if you don't try, you don't really know how they perform, and you don't get the experience only by reading. But talking about BTC Prague, we really try to stay focused on the core mission, and without compromising the Bitcoin values. So educating about Bitcoin and self-custody is a very important part of our agenda. And on the other side, we are happy that someone is coming for BTC Prague because they recognize that the fiat experiment is over. Like, who knew that 15 years ago that the fiat experiment would just disappear? It's like my parents, they always thought that they will be living in communism until end of their life, and suddenly the communism ended, the Berlin Wall fell down. So this is something so exciting that we can give a slack to newcomers that they are using Bitcoin in maybe a different fashion that we hardcore Bitcoiners are used to. It's really just about time you spend in Bitcoin and doing your own research. And someone might need an ATF for investing on a company behalf, but as an individual, they are investing in self-custody.
Yeah, and it's a good point you make about individuals versus companies, because in many cases, before the company could start doing things at the company level on the company balance sheet, individuals inside that company had to do that. And so many of those individuals might come to an event like this BTC Prague or other, any Bitcoin meetup or conference, right? And so I see these events as a crucial way to sort of help onboard some of those people and at least have the ability for them to hear different views. And that's actually why I think it's good, for sometimes there are panels where there's a lot of disagreement, or some conferences now are doing debates. So I think these are interesting ways for them to kind of, okay, I can hear different perspectives on whether it's, I don't know, should Bitcoiners engage in debt or not? Or should Bitcoiners use custodial things or not? Or what counts as a layer 2? Or, what are we going to do about quantum computing if we do something about it? These kinds of questions are probably interesting for people. And I think they help, they give people an opportunity to understand different views. Whereas if you're just kind of a normie in corporate world, you're just going to look at, what does the BBC say? Or what does the typical, corporate media say?
Yeah. Well, it's there are thousands of interesting questions. And we try to explore questions which give people power to act on that. We like to encourage our speakers to come up with some action call always. So it's not only interesting, but it's also something what you can really take and use for your own individual empowerment. And this year, I think it's ideal for plebs to recognize that they might be the future social economic leaders. So if you are in a company as a pleb, and I maybe give an example for me. I used to work in hospitality before I fell down to the rabbit hole. So if I would still work in hotels, so I would definitely go to my boss now and tell him, hey, there is a Bitcoin and we can start accepting it. It might bring some customers, and I will be happy to do the work behind it, to do the research, to acquire the point of sale, to set everything up. And this would give me something what I love, what I'm passionate about, and I would infuse it in my regular fiat job. I think the year 2025 is perfect for this, and the main stage will be full of encouragement and guides on how to do that, how to position yourself in the bull market, and how to leverage Bitcoin before the most of the world jump in.
Back to the show in a moment. This show brought to you by CoinKite.com, the creators of the best Bitcoin hardware security devices such as the Coldcard Mark IV and the new Coldcard Q. Now, we use Bitcoin hardware security devices to keep our keys offline, our private keys offline. Now, the way these work is you can do that setup, write down your 12 or 24 words on the seed word cards, and keep that secure. Now, you can use this device to interact with the Bitcoin network using software such as Sparrow Wallet, Electrum, or Vector Desktop, or Nunchuck as a few examples. Now, You have a range of security features that you can use with these devices, such as passphrases. You can use seed XOR, or my favorite is multi-signature. Now, if you're starting in a basic way, just start with the device and the USB-C cable, plug it directly to the computer and use it that way, and then later improve your setup. But I believe these devices are great at helping secure your coins, especially as you start to migrate up into multi-signature security. But don't be disheartened or don't be scared away. They are accessible, and I think you actually do learn about Bitcoin in the process. So to get yours, go to coinkite.com, use code Livera to get a discount on your cold card. This episode brought to you by Galoy. They are building banking software for the Bitcoin age. So if you are with a bank, a fintech, or a startup looking to offer some kind of Bitcoin product, whether that is a Bitcoin collateralized loan, deposit accounts, or payments, Galoy can help you. Their latest product is called Lana. It is a loans management platform, and you can use this to come to market quickly and offer a loans or Bitcoin collateralized lending product for your customers. Now, Galoy have a lot of experience in the space. They started with Blink Wallet in 2020, and they've since grown this to become a community favorite over time. And so they have a lot of experience making things work in a secure, reliable, and scalable way. So if you need assistance coming to market quickly with a Bitcoin banking product, such as lending or deposits or payments, talk to the team at Galoy. You can email them. The email is biz@galoy.io, or go to the website galoy.io. And now back to the show. Yeah, a few interesting questions for me there. As you said, one aspect of Bitcoin is accepting and making payments, and another aspect of it is the treasury strategy, right? Should the company hodl Bitcoin in their reserve, and then beyond that, if they choose, right, are they going to do like Strategy and Metaplanet and these other companies who are actually issuing equity and debt to buy more, or quote unquote Bitcoin financial engineering, or I don't know the exact whatever term people are using for that, but that's an interesting question also, because then it's sort of like, okay, if the company is going to do something with Bitcoin, what is it going to do? And what is a natural first step in your view?
Well, yeah, there is no one playbook for all, I would say. And this is a topic what I'm starting to be very interested about. And we as BTC Prague, we hold Bitcoin on our balance sheet. So we are playing this playbook in a sense. And I would highly encourage everyone to do that. It's just another way of holding. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you are individual or company. You just need to find a way how to acquire more Bitcoin. It's not easy, but it's simple. And at BTC Prague, we will, of course, discover those topics. And one of the topic, I think I can give a sneak peek to the program of Thursday of the business day. It will be you, Stephan, doing a fireside chat with Eric Semler, from Semler Scientific, the company on the Bitcoin treasury standard. So I think that Eric is great speaker, and he has he knows how to talk about it very eloquently. And I've been listening to the podcast with you and Eric, and it instantly clicked in my mind few things. And so I think that people really need to hear that and just apply this for their own company and for their own life.
Right. Yeah. As you said, more companies looking to do something with Bitcoin, whether that's holding it or accepting it for payment or making payments with it. The other question that came to my mind from what you were saying is the fiat job versus Bitcoin job question. Because for some people, they've been stacking Bitcoin for a while, and maybe they're in their fiat job and they're really over it and they want a Bitcoin job. But on the other hand, there are some people who maybe they are actually just better off staying in that fiat job and just using it to, let's say, fiat mine and then stack Bitcoin, or, you know, work inside the company that they're already in to help turn that more Bitcoin friendly. So how are you seeing that aspect of it, whether you stay in the fiat job or actually try to work in the industry directly?
I think people should do what they really like. If you're a doctor and you love what you're doing, why would you ever quit your job? Yeah? And we need doctors, we need engineers. We need people with different kind of expertise. If you can fit your expertise in Bitcoin job, it's great, and you should go for it. But other than that, I think it's fine to stay where you are and just stack sats and learn about Bitcoin and spread the adoption wave.
Yeah, and it's also fair to say it's kind of like the question of, do you go work for a large established company or do you work for this scrappy startup? Because in that scrappy startup, they might not be able to pay you as well. Just being honest, right? Like you might earn more in a big established job versus in that scrappy startup, but maybe there's a little bit more, you have like some equity or there's some other thing that you're getting out of that. So maybe it's sort of like that. If you are working in let's say a traditional fiat job versus going to work in the industry per se, in the Bitcoin industry.
Well, the sure thing is that Bitcoin will help you always and wherever you are. If you are in a fiat job and maybe you look for a way how to escape, you should start stacking sats, and maybe in a few years you will be wealthy enough or independent to actually start something for yourself or just move without threatening financial situation of your family. So it's a long run, right? And that's something what Bitcoin teaches us to lower our time preference and be more think more about our long-term future.
Yeah. And it is also a useful thing when people go to Bitcoin events, they have a chance to find a Bitcoin job, right? Because they might make a connection or they may be looking to hire. Maybe they have a Bitcoin company and they're looking for Bitcoiners to hire because they want someone who already knows kind of the ethos and the technical jargon and the aspects of the industry. So I guess there's different components to that because sometimes people want to hire a Bitcoiner and they would rather train them up on whatever other technical things, or if they find the perfect candidate who's like a Bitcoiner in the specialty that they want, that's obviously ideal. Or in other cases, maybe they have to hire someone who has like the technical specialty and they kind of have to coach them the Bitcoin aspects.
Definitely. I can tell from my part, we are hiring only Bitcoiners to our company, and I have dozens of success stories, people who came to BTC Prague or our previous conference Chain Camp, and now they are working full time in Bitcoin. Because most of the Bitcoin companies, they rather teach the missing skill rather than teach people about Bitcoin. The Bitcoiners are just like different kind of creatures, and they, if they get the job, they can learn anything else. But teaching someone Bitcoin takes a long time, and companies just can't afford it.
Yeah, interesting, because it's like there is an element of culture, understanding, mindset, some of these shifts that are, let's say, unusual in the Gen Pop population that are sort of typical in the Bitcoin world. Maybe that's also because it is still early in one sense, right? It is early in the sense that the people who would work in this industry or the people who would really go hard early, that's a special kind of person. And obviously over time, as Bitcoin grows, then that selection effect will go away, right? Because it'll just become more and more like the normies.
Well, who knows when where the ecosystem will lead us? But yeah, perhaps you're right.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the Czech Republic. So I think the big one, or at least the kind of noteworthy one, was that a central banker from the Czech National Bank came out and said, we're going to actually consider holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. I'm curious your reaction on that.
Yeah, well, it was surprising, to be honest. Aleš Michal, the governor of Czech National Bank, he used to be an investor banker. He used to run funds, so he likes profits. So in this sense, it's not surprising. But hearing something like this from Czech National Bank, of course, it surprised the whole Czech and even the global Bitcoin community, and it will probably it will probably happen. So now they bought just a little tiny piece of Bitcoin to so-called test how is it performing, because right after Aleš Michal announced that, there was a statement from Christine Lagarde, from Brussels, and she said that no, the Czech people, our Czech friends, they will never buy this very risky asset. Yeah, so it's funny how how is it playing out, and for me personally, it only confirms the game theory. And we are very lucky in Czech Republic that we don't have euro, especially now with even the ECB launching the digital, the CBDC, the central bank digital currency for euro. So we will be stacking sats, and we are having very friendly Bitcoin rules, new legislative, and we don't have the CBDC in Czech Republic. So I guess Prague and Czech Republic will be really a hub for Bitcoin, and with this strong individualist and anarcho-capitalistic and libertarian roots from the communist era, I think I feel really hopeful, to be honest with you. I feel more hopeful than 5 years ago, when I was actually thinking and living abroad and thinking if I would ever choose Czech Republic as my home country. And now I feel proud, finally, and I've never been nationalistic. So it's really good, and you can feel it through the whole Bitcoin community, that even though it's kind of it's not a really grassroots movement, it's it sounds good, and it gives people something to be proud of.
The lead sponsor of this show is Bold, the best place to buy, sell, and save Bitcoin. For listeners in the US, Bold lets you secure your financial future with complete peace of mind by integrating a low-fee, Bitcoin-only brokerage with next-gen multi-sig vaults. With Bold, you can smash buy Bitcoin or set a DCA plan for only 0.99% fees and seamlessly deposit the Bitcoin direct to your Bold vault. The Bold Vault is a 2 of 3 collaborative multi-sig where you hold 2 keys and Bold holds 1 as a redundant backup, protecting against loss or theft. You can use Trezor, Ledger, or Coldcard hardware wallets to spin up a Bold Vault in just a few minutes, and the Bold Vault is the only collaborative custody vault available with 0 monthly fees. They're also offering 0 fees on your first $10,000 of Bitcoin buys and $25 of free Bitcoin when you buy $100 of Bitcoin or more. Try Bold today and upgrade your stacking experience over at getbold.io. And now, back to the show. Yeah, I find it fascinating because this is arguably you could argue that Bitcoin is designed to take away this, money from the state. And the central bank in most countries is quite literally one of the instruments implementing the state's monetary control. And so it is so, let's say, paradoxical and kind of a real curveball, let's say, that the central bank is actually thinking about it. And it is interesting because central banks hold reserves, right? Historically, they hold foreign currency, they hold gold reserves, and now this question of would and could central banks actually hold Bitcoin as part of their reserve? And I think I could understand people might be conflicted on one sense, right? Because if you're a libertarian, you might be like, hey, I don't want the state to hold Bitcoin. And so on one angle, you could say, well, it's more like you're just neutrally recognizing, and if they are just neutrally recognizing it on their own, and you can't stop them buying Bitcoin, well, okay. Now, I guess as a libertarian, I guess you have I guess 3 main stances, right? You could sort of be like, okay, you support them doing it. Maybe you wouldn't, or maybe you would because you think for some other reason it's going to bring about liberty. Or maybe you're kind of neutral on that issue, or you are against them holding Bitcoin. So I guess that's, yeah, but I mean, we will see what happens. Whether they actually do end up buying a serious amount of Bitcoin and what they do with it.
Yeah, well, I think that the reason why there are people who are fond of Bitcoin, even in central bank is the history, and because the Austrian economics has been really rooted in Czech banking system, and there are many Austrian economists in the central bank. So there are still people, they are not stupid, and they play with the cards they have. So now it's just, I think that the big question is to let them to do this research and talk to the big boss in the European Central Bank, because I think that we as a normal people, we don't really know what is happening behind the curtains and what are the big rules and how they
interesting.
can overcome the hands of the puppet masters.
And I think the other interesting question is, if we are just trying to, we're all fans of Bitcoin here, and we all think Bitcoin is good. So obviously we think it's a good asset, and it might make sense in a loose sense to say the assets, the banking system is, at least in the fiat fractional reserve world, it is to some extent backstopped by the reserves held by the central bank. And I guess if you are looking at a comparative analysis, so not endorsing or disendorsing or whatever, but the idea is, let's say you've got one fiat system that's fully fiat, and the central bank holds zero reserves, versus another system, and that central bank actually does hold maybe some gold, and they hold some Bitcoin. And just objectively speaking, which banking system is more fragile? Well, the one with zero reserves, right? The one with at least something, there's at least a conceivable way in which people can be made whole if a bank fails. So there is an interesting, I guess, kind of economic aspect to it, and a reason why it might actually make sense for them to do it from their perspective. Of course, I think the principled libertarian view is, abolish the central bank, but so long as it's going to exist, then people inside the bank, you can understand why they would see it as something to hold, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And this news came after our president signed the new law where he granted a time and value tax thresholds for individuals. So that means that the hodlers don't have to pay tax after 3 years of hodling Bitcoin. This is big. Yeah. And he also granted the corporate account rights, the right to have bank account if you are dealing with cryptocurrency as a company. So I think that it's just a next step for Czech Republic being so smart to actually do this to attract outside investors, and first and foremost not lose the Bitcoiners, because they're like with like now it's not very difficult to move away. Yeah, if you want, you can acquire new passports, and you can pretty much live anywhere in the world. So the states who do these steps before the others will benefit greatly. And I think that the leadership of Czech Republic recognized this because they had time for this. Czech Republic has been leading the Bitcoin development since the very beginning. Yeah, we had the first mining pool, slush pool, now brains pool, since 2010. Then the first ever hardware wallet, Trezor, 2012, with BIP39. Then General Bytes, the biggest Bitcoin ATM manufacturer, is also based in Prague, and other companies, and they all have been advocating for some changes to be able to stay in Czech and be competitive. So it wasn't like that. Like from outside, you can think that it just happened, but it took few people at least like 3 years of really hard work to make this little change happening. And I was there when those people met for the first time, and they put those little notes, those bullet points on the piece of paper, and I couldn't believe if you ask me if I think that it's possible, I would tell you no. This is just like you are wasting your time. And suddenly after 3 years it happened, and it's amazing how Czech Republic is really leading the way in Europe.
Yeah, that's fascinating that there's no capital gains after holding for 3 years, because it really enables now, if you are a long-term holder, I mean, a common thing people are doing is they're borrowing against their coins in many other jurisdictions because they don't want to pay capital gains tax. Now, it might still make sense to do it even without capital gains tax, but I guess that's one of the reasons. But I guess now it seems like they are, let's say, opening the doors for Bitcoin companies in a way, especially the corporate bank accounts thing. So in the US conversation, there's the whole Operation Choke Point 2.0, which I think the Trump administration is moving against that. They've said that. I'm curious, do you think this was a similar thing, the Czech equivalent of granting the possibility for corporate bank accounts?
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think I can give you a really educated answer on this, and we will probably still need to wait a little bit longer if we see that those foreign banks are respecting this Czech law, because it's still very fresh.
I see.
So perhaps in 6 months or a year, we will see how big difference this law really brought.
Yeah. Okay. So let's close up then. Let's talk a bit about kind of the details. What are the dates? What can people look forward to with BTC Prague?
Yeah, for sure. So the dates are 19 to 21st June. If you want to come a day early, there is a DevHack Day for all those geeky, techie, curious minds. It's a conference on its own. So it's a 4-day long conference, almost 10,000 people, 200 speakers from all over the world, 100 plus companies in the expo hall. We explore topics like money, freedom, technology, open source technology, and community. So everyone can find what they like. And the conference itself is big. It's the biggest Bitcoin conference in Europe. So I would say that the umbrella of the whole European Bitcoin community. And if you manage to bring any newbies with you, you can be sure that they just fall right into the rabbit hole. They get the conviction, they get all the basic information, and if you are a newbie or seasonal Bitcoiner, you will always get something what you can leverage for yourself. So this year, 2025, is the year of Bitcoin, and we are making a history here. So I would love to just invite everyone to come enjoy the great cultural conference. It's not only about money, it's really about building relationships, making new friendships, learning how to be a healthy individual, family, how to take your sovereignty into your own hands, how to be responsible, and how to keep the values. So we create the future we want. We are exiting this experiment of fiat, and we are moving to new age where everyone needs to be responsible for their own life. So if you are one of this person, I think that BTC Prague is exactly the place for you.
Excellent. Well, listeners, links will be in the show notes, btcprague.com. I believe we have code Livera as well for listeners to get a discount there. And otherwise, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in June.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan, for inviting. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, because most of the time you are just whispering to my ear on my daily dog walks.